Welcome to the Rant Live. Heyo, welcome to the Rant Live, everybody. It's me, John Furlies, with my co-host there, Evan Altman, and we have a very exciting guest today to talk to that I'm excited to talk to. And I know you're excited to talk to, and you actually have the shirt on. Is that
this is the OG. This is like the homemade in about. So I'll tell the story real quick, right? Because I'd been thinking about this for a while, and I was like, man, it'd be kind of cool, and the nickname's a cool idea, and I want to make this shirt. And here's the idea. And my wife's like, okay, cool. And I said, well, Ryan and I are going to go to the game today. Could you get us? So she goes out, she buys some shirts, like found them at Kohl's or whatever. You know, the basics. She got her little T-shirt press and all this stuff, and so she's like out in the hammock or something. It was I think July or August or something. It was late in the season. It was a real warm day. I'm like, hey, we got to get going. Did you get the shirt? She was like, oh no, they're still in the dryer. I'm like, well, we got to go to the game. Like the game is like in an hour. So we ended up like, we're hustling. We're slapping these things together. And then we ended up making it down there, but it was really wild because there was like something going on at the zoo. There was something else going on downtown. It was like downtown Indianapolis was just jamming. And when the iCubs come to town, the ballpark is pretty packed as well. And so we ended up making it down there. And Matt was actually like warming up ahead of. I told my son, I was like, hey, you should go down there, show him your shirt, whatever. He's like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm like, okay, fine. And so then that's when we ended up taking the picture of it, and he ended up seeing it, and the rest is history. And obvious shirts, that whole thing took off. But this is the OG, man. My son wore his the other day when I think he was doing a pitching lesson or something. So anyway, so we still rock them out from time to time. Gotta keep it old school. Old school.
Very nice.
It's like 3 months old. So yeah.
I love it, man. And so Matt Mervis really broke out this season. He slashed 309, 379, and 606 with 36 home runs, 119 RBI over a mere 137 minor league games at 3 different levels. Quite an impressive tally he put together there. Coming. I don't want to say he came out of nowhere because, obviously he didn't come out of nowhere, but he certainly was not on a lot of people's radar screens, I think, coming into the season. And boy, oh boy, is he now more than ever. And I saw Northside Bound just released their prospect rankings yesterday. If you guys don't follow Northside Bound, you should have him at number 5 in the system so far, which is the highest I've seen him ranked.
That's pretty solid. And I think, my favorite part about it is like, and even if it's not meant in a derogatory way, which I think some people when they're writing about it kind of do, and they or use it as almost a surprise, like undrafted. I'm like, well, let's qualify that a little bit more because we're talking about a 5-round draft. So this is a guy who absolutely would have been picked, probably would have been picked in a standard draft. I bet he would have gone a little bit earlier, but teams clearly had different strategies, that sort of thing. But when you talk about someone who, as soon as the draft ends, multiple teams are on the phone trying to get him to sign with them. That's not like your standard, oh, hey, we had 40 picks and now this is some dude whose uncle went to high school with a local area scout and is like, hey, could you, do me a solid? That's not the deal, right? So the potential was clearly there. And I think, giving a chance to kind of, hey, get that first pro season out of the way, and we'll ask him about this, but and then coming into that second one with kind of some better mental clarity and understanding of things. I mean, he took off, and you can see the confidence build. That was, and I want to speak to that a little bit. I want to ask about that because that was one thing I noticed. I only got to see him. Well, I got to see him play at AAA and AA, but AA was where I saw it, and that team was kind of stacked. Certainly at the time, unfortunately with Alexander Canario, who was another guy who burst through the system, tons of home runs. And then we saw that nasty injury he just suffered. So hopefully he comes back okay. But anyway, let's without further ado, should we perhaps stop talking about our guest and talk with our guest?
Let's bring him on. Hey, Matt, how are you doing?
Doing well, guys. How are you?
Good. Glad to have you today. Thanks for joining us. I don't know if you were listening to the conversation that we were just having, but talking about you coming, being undrafted in the COVID year where they only had 5 rounds. Walk us through what was going through your mind as the draft approached that year, knowing, that it was going to be a short draft, and kind of what your expectations were and how that played out for you.
Yeah, I wanted to be drafted, obviously, just to, be held in higher regards in the organization's eyes. A fifth rounder is a pretty premium pick in a lot of drafts, and especially if that's the last pick of the draft and the rest of the guys are, free agent signings where, like you mentioned, it's not a traditional draft, but you're still a free agent. So there's less money attached to you. There's just the title of it doesn't sound as good. So I wanted to be drafted. I was doing what I could, talking to teams and scouts and trying to, save them some money maybe in the 5th round, or, some teams were talking about 4th round maybe. So I was, whoever mentioned that, I was really pushing it. And obviously it didn't end up happening. I was a senior. Teams didn't have to spend that money on me, so there was no need to. But yeah, my goal was to get drafted and work with whoever took me.
And did that put a chip on your shoulder?
I was going to ask that same thing.
Did that make you feel like, you kind of wanted to show everybody what they missed out on?
More so my junior year when there were 40 rounds and I didn't get drafted.
Mm. There's going to be a lot of at least 29, right, that are probably going to regret this or are already. But did that in any way, and you've talked about this, so I want to kind of approach this question a little bit of a different way, because I know you've spoken a lot about kind of, I guess if we say achieving maybe some mental clarity, for lack of a better term, this season at the plate, right? Not trying to tinker with the mechanics and just, oh God, what happened that last at bat? What do I need to change the next one? And you just got out of your head, right? Was there any aspect of that, again, kind of wanting to prove yourself, maybe pressing a little that first year at Myrtle Beach that possibly contributed to that, or what else would you say kind of was the difference in that first season being a little bit rougher, and then the second season that you just finished being a significant breakout for?
It was kind of a weird combination of wanting to prove myself, but also playing so bad last year in 2021 that I came in with lower expectations, I think, from the media, certainly from the front office, from my teammates, probably. So, yes, I wanted to prove myself, but I was also able to play free, let go of those expectations and just go back to playing baseball.
And so you had mentioned specifically, so I was listening to your appearance with, I think it was Jonathan Mayo, maybe on the MLB Pipeline podcast, and you had mentioned there was kind of a specific moment. I think it was when you were at South Bend where you said, and you kind of struggled a little bit through the first 2 weeks of the season, and then caught, I think, a left-on-left curve and drove it for a hit out into right center. And I think when I looked it up, I think it was maybe, if I figured it out correctly based on the plays, is maybe a game in Fort Wayne. I don't know if that's correct, but I know you did face a lefty in that one. He did get a hit. I don't know if it was a curveball because they don't have that data in there. But from that point on, things kind of took off, and I don't know. I'll get to this. This will eventually be a question, but I wanted to point this out because, like, my son and I, we went down to Tennessee, and specifically we were actually there. We've gotten to know Max Bain really well, so we went down there, and he made a start on Friday, and got to watch that, which was really cool. And I've actually got the Elvis Knight jersey hanging up over here. Just reminder to folks out there, don't have more than like 2 beers if they're doing one of those raffles of the jerseys. I ended up like bidding against myself and spending $20 more than I should have probably, but case in point. So just don't do that. But I noticed something about just watching you, because I knew of you. I knew that had done really well and were coming up, but there was something there, and I saw it again in Iowa, where some people you can just watch, athletes, individuals, whatever, and they walk into a room or they walk out on the field, and you say, that's a dude who gets it, like that person is very confident, just the way they carry themselves, the way they walk out there. And I saw that with the way that you, and I'm talking about like the way you went out to first base even. And I was just like, I was telling my son, I was like, this guy looks like he knows what he's doing. Like this. And then I think immediately afterwards, there was an incredible play. He turned I think a double play going from first to third back to first, wiped out some runs, awesome stuff. So is that something, here's where I eventually get to the question, is that something like that you're conscious of the way, because I know some of that is it manifests itself, right? If I am confident, if I carry myself a certain way, then that positivity will kind of lead to good things. Or is it just kind of a natural, like you don't even think about it, just like, yeah, I'm just, I just am, and that's how it comes off. Like, is there anything conscious about the way you're carrying yourself out there when you're on the field?
Not really. I think a lot of it comes from having success at the plate. You can show up to the field and go, it feels like I'm going to have a good game today. Then naturally you're going to walk a little taller, your shoulders back, chest out, stuff like that. So, I don't think about carrying myself a certain way or walking with a certain posture or anything, but there was a point in Double-A where I was like, I feel really good. I'm gonna go out and hit and play well. So just having that confidence and really, it got cocky at some point because I just felt so comfortable in the batter's box that it probably did affect my body language and how I was projecting myself.
What were there some moments that somebody was asking? Well, we got another question that gets into this a little bit more specifically, but are there any moments outside? I mean, you mentioned the one at South Bend, but were there some other points where it's like a certain home run, or maybe it was even hey, a 2-strike count that you were able to fight off and go the other way? Were there some things that stood out to you that you look back on and like, man, that one felt good, or is it just kind of all a general feeling of the season as a whole?
There's definitely a positive general feeling, but there are definitely moments that stick out. And you were 100% correct earlier, where it was the lefty in Fort Wayne. That was like the first one where I really started to gain that confidence. There was a backdoor slider in Birmingham and a 2-strike count that I smoked a ball down the left field line, which I've never done before. But I saw that pitch, and for whatever reason, my body just aligned to do that right. I'm hoping I can continue to find that and keep doing that. But there were a couple left-handed home runs, stuff like that. That just really, they felt good. They felt right. And if I can keep working to make those more consistent, then I'm pretty confident where I'm going.
Do you feel like there was something that you did differently in the off season? Because it sounds like, your approach to the plate was, predicated off of the things that you had been doing and working on in your practices in the off season. And it started to come together when you had those at bats. Was there something different that you did this off season, or what did you do to help gain that confidence and push you to that next level?
I do think I had a pretty good off season plan. I've been working with the same hitting coach at home, Keith Gordon, for at least 12 years now. So he really, not only does he know my swing, but he can tell, even if I'm not talking him through anything or telling him what I'm working on, he can tell when I'm kind of tinkering in my head. And so there were a few times where I was trying some things out just on my own, not really having a discourse with him, but he would say, get out of your head, stay simple, do what we've worked on for years and years. And so that really helped me during the season where, like in 2021, I would have a bad game or a few games and go back to the drawing board, where this year I would have a bad at bat or 2 at bats and just tell myself to get out of my head, be simple, do what's been working, just trust it. And then tomorrow pregame, we can get back to finding our good feeling. But it wasn't really, it was mechanical in the sense that we simplified and shortened my swing and that stuff. But I think a lot of it was the mental part where I was able to get out of my own head quickly this year. What
would you say? Obviously that had, John read off a bunch of the stats from earlier. And I've got a thought as to what the answer might be, or at least I have an answer myself of what it would be. But do you have a favorite statistic or accomplishment from this past season, whether that be at any individual level or kind of the aggregate numbers?
I think honestly, I'm most proud of the batting average. I'm a little bit old school in the sense that I think average matters, hits matter. A lot of my hits were extra base hits, which is good for the slugging percentage and those numbers. But I talked to Darius Hill a ton in AAA and even AA when we were there for, I think it was only 2 weeks together. But he led the minor leagues in hits, and he doesn't walk a lot, so his average is pretty close to his on base percentage. So he's going to have to hit, and if he hits, then I have a chance to drive him in. So that's where the RBIs come from. But I think just getting on base for your teammates, hitting, and it does something to the pitcher's confidence where, Darius gets a hit and then the next guy gets a hit. And if I'm hitting third, then I get a hit. And this guy, it doesn't have to be 3 solo home runs to shake his confidence. If he's just getting hit a little bit around the park, then, and he's always got to deal with base runners and traffic, then he's not going to keep throwing the same pitches. He's going to start to nibble, maybe leave some pitches over the plate, stuff like that. So I love stringing hits together. That's one of the big things for me.
Yeah, I was going to say what was most impressive to me, and a thing that I think a lot of people tend to point to, is the fact that you significantly decreased your strikeout rate at every level, which is not, I mean, that's not normal for anybody, let alone, like, most people think of guys who hit for power as being big swing and miss guys. But the fact that you were able to markedly decrease it from single A to double A, from double A to triple A, and then in the AFL, you hit 6 home runs with 8 strikeouts. That's pretty, I thought that was impressive. But again, I think that does follow from what you just mentioned with that approach of, you're not trying for home runs. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if I paraphrase again from that earlier podcast, as you mentioned, like, you're not out there trying to hit homers, right? You're looking for that gap power, hard high line drives. Yeah, if it carries out over the fence, cool, but I'm going for hits. Is that a fair assessment of your approach?
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to hit the ball hard. If I put a good swing on the ball, I'm on time, then hopefully it is a high line drive or a home run.
And that happened a few times, and
just a couple.
Yeah, and a few of those. And let's be fair to those who have not seen Matt's highlights. We're not talking about wall scrapers where it made it out over the fence. So I do want to still put it out there that, like, you've got a ton of power, and there were a few of those. There's one in particular that was a lot of fun that I know Alex Cohen tweeted out, and there's one that went, I think, off the scoreboard or right past the scoreboard out in Iowa. And there's a woman out there just dancing the whole time. I love that video because she's jamming the whole time and loving it. I don't know if she was oblivious to the homer and was just loving the music, or if she was celebrating the homer. I don't know, but there were a couple that I saw that, like, there's a building outside the outfield in another one of the ballparks. I don't know if that was at Memphis or what, but that went out, and those are no doubters. But it is cool. I know people talk about home runs being happy accidents. And if that's the case, then you're a very accident-prone individual. But has there ever been a point, I know you talked about getting almost cocky at times. Were there ever any points where kind of some of that success and stringing some together kind of got you almost borderline, like, getting out of that approach and trying for power a little bit to where you had to dial it back in?
No. Because I was able to hit home runs with that approach, I didn't have to change or sell out to hit home runs. There were times where maybe I swung a little harder or sold out to a certain pitch, but I mean, that only happens when I'm 99% certain he's going to throw it. The one in Columbus off the lefty that was throwing 97 was, I mean, he threw it slider the first pitch that I just didn't see. So I go, I'm just going to swing at a fastball, and he happened to throw me a fastball, and I got to it on time. That one was a happy accident. And then Jared Young did the same thing 2 hitters later. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, a lot of the time it was just the same simple approach. I trust my mechanics, so I just try not to get in my way with mental stuff and getting too big on a swing or selling out for pitches. And if I'm wrong, then get myself out. So just try to stay simple.
So, and you talked already about how, not big changes in your offseason program, but certainly some things to kind of shorten the swing a little bit. Again, focus on just controlling what you can control. I know it's been a long season, right? I know a lot of that was you were not a typical Arizona Fall League participant, right? Most of the time it's guys who missed time from injury or who, maybe the club's looking, hey, they had a really good time at a lower level. Let's swing them through here to give them some higher competition before they get promoted. In your case, I think it was theorized, and I think you confirmed more or less as much that a lot of that is about getting ready for the grind of a 162 game season, which is obviously vastly different from a college season or even in the minors. So now that you're in the off season, I mean, have you taken any extra time to kind of just sit down and breathe for a while? And then what does this off season program, like what are the things you're planning on getting after this winter in order to be prepared for spring training?
I have not done anything yet. I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
What's the date? Today's the 23rd.
Yeah,
I think our last game was the 10th. So I'm taking my time off. I'm going to get back in the gym actually right after we get done here. But so this will be my first day actually, getting back into shape, getting ready for next year. I won't hit or throw for a little while still. I think I have plenty of time to do that, and I still want to give my body the rest from that rotational requirement for the last 8-9 months, whatever it was. But yeah, just building back strength is the beginning of my off-season plan. I think the Cubs, we made some changes in the high performance department, the strength department. So I like what we've done there and the people that we've brought in. So I'm excited to start this program. And then other than that, just keep working on flexibility and mobility around first base. Most of my value as a first baseman comes from helping my teammates. So if I can hammer down that footwork and, stretch an extra 3-4 inches for a ball that saves an error, gets an out. So that's what I'll be working on. And then hitting, just keep building on what I did last year. The plan is to do the same stuff until something comes up that I need to work on. So we'll do some more spin off the machine this year. Keith, I mentioned earlier, throws great batting practice. He throws hard. So the velocity training will be there. I can do that off of arm and machine, which is good for me. And just keep working on what I'm doing. Nice.
There's a couple of questions that we're in here, and I wondered this as well, because so I grew up throwing, and my brother's left-handed, and he's a couple years younger. And at one point, I think like my dad had a left-handed baseball glove for some reason, so I actually started out being left-handed. I'm naturally right-handed though, but I've always swung a bat left-handed. I eat left-handed. I swing a golf club left-handed, but I throw right. My son the same way, throws right, bats left. We made him switch hitter when he was younger because you can do that when they're young. I used to switch hit. But what for you, was that just a natural thing that like that's just how it settled in, or was there anything that kind of came up to go with the right left kind of a thing?
My older brother is 2 years older than me. It was natural for him to do everything right-handed except for like baseball, hockey, and lacrosse maybe, and golf are all left-handed. So when I started playing baseball, if I picked up a bat right-handed, he wouldn't throw the ball. So it wasn't forced by, physical forcing, but, if I wanted to play, then I had to hit left-handed just to be like him. So yeah, I give him the credit for that.
Did you ever try to switch hit or bat right-handed as you grew up? No.
And it's my right-handed swing is ugly. It is not good.
So mine is now. It's funny how quickly you lose that stuff, because I tell you what, I did when I was earlier. If I go out and when I was younger, and if I go out and try to do it now, I could maybe hit a slow pitch softball, but man, it gets ugly the other side. But it was funny. So yeah, I kind of did that with my kid when he was young, because I could be like, oh, why don't you try this? But anyway, this is my last question. Then we're gonna, and I know we don't want to take too much more of your time, but I want to make sure there were some fans that submitted some questions. But I had there was some talk going around, because one of our folks who's now with CHGO, Brennan Miller, used to work with us. He loves nothing more than an A2K, Wilson A2K glove. I'm a Rawlings guy. What's your preferred mitt over there at first base?
I use Rawlings. I know Wilson's based out of Chicago, so hopefully they don't get mad at me. But I've used Rawlings since I was growing up. In college, we had a Rawlings deal, so I've used it for the last however many years, and that's just what I'm comfortable with.
That's the correct answer. Although we do have I got him a 44, and that thing is still that's taken forever to break in. I will say that 44 mitts, even though I ordered it without the super stiffness, that's just one thing I'd watch out for. But anyway, do you have enough time that we can get to some other fan questions here in a little bit before you head out? Cool.
Yeah.
So the first one, they wanted to know, have you ever actually seen the TV show or movie MASH?
I have not. My parents have told me I need to watch it, but I haven't seen it.
It is a good one. That's where the ideas, and for anybody out there who hasn't seen these shirts, the MASH Mervis shirts that came from the nickname that got out there, you should go to Obvious Shirts. You should go buy a bunch of them. I think they're doing a Black Friday sale. Get those. They're great stocking stuffers, right? They've got other options out there, but this is clearly the best one that they have right now. So another person asked, so I know you've worn, you had 41 at a couple of stops. I think you were in 27 at Iowa and in the AFL, right? But Seiya Suzuki's got 27 for the Cubs. So if you get the call, what number are you going to wear?
I wore 41 in Iowa. I wanted to correct you on that, because that was something my college teammates did this year, just out of nowhere. Was we wore the numbers of our college teammates that aren't playing anymore that we liked. So 41 was Hunter Davis, and we actually had, I think, 3 other guys wear 41 this year. Adam Lasky with the Cubs was wearing it. I know in Myrtle. I'm not sure if he got it again in South Bend. But we had a couple other guys. 12 has been my number since I was young. Pretty much even numbers, multiples of 12 are good for me. Kind of weird about that, but yeah, I mean, if I can get a 12 or a 24 or a 36, then I'm fine with any of those.
72, 84, whatever works, right?
I don't know if I want to go that
don't want to go up there. The Eloy Jimenez numbers. That does got the tight end number out there at first base. But so you talked earlier about the swing and kind of not tweaking it, but shortening some things, whatever. But obviously, having worked with the same coach for the last, it sounds like about half your life, or even before that, was there anybody who you watched growing up that you wanted to pattern your swing after when you were younger?
I never really tried to pattern my swing after anybody, but I loved watching left-handed power hitters. So growing up, it was Ortiz and Prince Fielder, guys like that could. It was kind of before the home run was as sought after as it is now, but it was still guys that obviously that could really hit some bombs and do it frequently. So, guys I love watching now are Schwarber and Rizzo and Harper and Yordan Alvarez. So, I don't really try to swing like anybody, but I love left-handed hitting power hitters.
This person mentioned Jim Thome as someone that you reminded them of. So, kind of a Chicago. That's one guy who I wish would have been able to come through with the Cubs at some point. So you did also mention being able to take that slider down the left field line on a 2-strike pitch. Do you have a specific 2-strike approach? Like, do you try to get into a no stride? Do you change anything about it, or is it the same swing the whole time?
I don't change anything physical. I don't move in the box. I don't choke up. In my mind, we spend all our time practicing. Like in batting practice, I'm going to stand in the same spot. I'm going to swing with the full length of the bat. So that's what I'm comfortable with, and I don't have any reason to change that. Mentally, I'll think a little bit more simple. Not in the sense that I think less or anything like that, but what I want to do externally is more simple. So, more bat to the ball instead of power. Try to hit it like a low line drive instead of driving the ball, stuff like that. Just try to make contact and move the baseball.
And so this question here is more on hitting philosophy. Now, there's a lot of I won't go into it because I got a whole lot. There's all the different little instructions that you'll hear from hitting coaches. So this person asks, knob to the ball or throw the barrel?
All barrel. I don't think knob at all. Yeah,
There we go.
We train to hit the ball in the barrel. Knob to me gets me out and extended, and I don't want to do that. I want to think get the bat through the zone.
Nice.
Matt, I was wondering, both Evan and I have kids that play club baseball and little league and everything like that. What was, maybe talk a little bit about what your kind of younger experience was like, and then what advice would you give to young kids out there, 10, 11, 12, 13, to kind of keep them on track?
Yeah, growing up, I just played travel baseball in Maryland. We went up and down the East Coast a little bit, probably from, I'd say, New York down to South Carolina. Nothing more than a few hour drive, but playing some better teams outside the state, especially when we went more south. And really just, I knew I loved baseball, so I wanted to play, and we had a great team growing up. We stayed together for a while, probably from 8U to 12U, 13U. And so we just played because we loved it and we were good friends, and it was fun to travel. And then once it got more serious, for me, I still had to keep the love of the game, and it's a little bit more cliche than, working hard and trying to train your skills. But if you love it, then you're going to do that, and it's going to be more fun instead of just, making it a grind for a 14-year-old kid. So I think just keep having fun. If you have fun doing it, then you'll be motivated to keep doing it. And obviously the more you play, the more experience you have, then you'll become a better player, and just keep that rolling.
Yeah, it's hard not to have fun for a 10-year-old playing baseball. I've noticed these guys, they have fun chewing gum. So it's amazing to watch. My son the other day came up to me and he said, "Hey, Dad, my 1A, my plan A is to be an MLB player, and I don't have a plan B." He's 10. And so, like, when you were that age, were you thinking, I want to be an MLB player, or were you just going out there having fun and whatever happened, happened?
I wanted to be an MLB player. I don't think that was plan A. I don't know if I really had a plan A when I was 10. Yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to play baseball for as long as I can and just, make this my job, my career. But yeah, it probably developed when I was 14, 15, maybe, that I thought I had a real shot at it. But I mean, 10 years old, he's got a couple year head start on me.
So we'll get you out of here. I just have like two more questions and this comes from Greg Huss, so we got to ask this one, which I think it was Greg. But anyway, what was your favorite ballpark to hit dingers in this year out of all of them you played in?
Tennessee was fun. It was 320 down the right field line with a short fence, so I got lucky a couple times there, I'll admit it. Ball flies there a little bit. The batter's eye is incredible. I mean, it's a forest. It's a dark green trees all around. There's never shadows. So that was fun. And then Columbus I hit 3 there, I think, and they have the tall wall in right field. So if you hit one over there, it just looks like a bomb. I mean, that place was, and in watching other guys too. I mentioned JY earlier. Hermosillo hit one off the batter's eye. So that place was cool.
Nice. And Tennessee's a lot of fun for fans who are listening. If you haven't been down there, or if you have and you should get back, there's a ton of cool stuff to do around there. Go ride a mountain coaster. Go have fun when you get down there. It's great. Spend a weekend, whatever. But I guess the last thing before we let you go is just obviously we've seen the numbers. We know that ideally they're keeping a spot warm for you. I think a lot of us are really looking forward to seeing you get to Wrigley and MASH and not even have to worry about the basket being there, put some out onto the street. But what are some things, like what do you want Cubs fans to know about? Maybe it's folks that haven't really followed the minors and don't really see much of that yet, but what do Cubs fans need to know about Matt Mervis as we head into next season and they start hearing more about you in spring training and moving forward?
I'm going to play hard. I play with some emotion. I care a lot. I have high expectations for myself. And I'm going to do what I can to help us win. And not only me, but there are a ton of guys in the minor leagues that are moving up and moving up fast. You mentioned Canario earlier. Brennan was off to a red hot start in the fall league when he came back. And obviously PCA and guys like that. So there are a ton of guys coming up and should be making an impact pretty soon in Chicago.
It's going to be fun. I was saying the other day, spring training is going to be, just about as epic as it's been in a really long time. I live here in Phoenix, Arizona, and I can't tell you how excited I am for spring training. See you out there.
Looking forward to it. Yes. I mean, hopefully all these guys get into the big league spring training games. I'm sure Brennan will, because he's 40-man now, and obviously the other guys we just added. And I know PCA played in a few last year. Owen Casey played in a few last year. So we should have a really good group down there.
Yeah, that's gonna be great. Really looking forward to it. Again, very much appreciate you taking some time out. I know that you've got a workout to get back to, but just wanted again just to thank you for not only the time, but just hey, it's cool. We're business partners, right? So I appreciate you giving your blessing to the shirts and everything like that. That's been a fun little thing, and it's been really cool to see how that has kind of taken off. And like other, you'll see it on the marquee broadcasts, and they're using the nickname and stuff like that. So it's like you've created a little bit of a name for yourself, and that's on you. I slapped this on a T-shirt, but it doesn't happen if you're not out there. And I will, like, I looked at the before and after numbers, and I'm going to go ahead and say, if you do the splits at Iowa and you look at the numbers after I wore the shirt, you go ahead, check it out. We'll see. I'm not taking credit. I'm not taking full credit, but no, really, really looking forward to seeing what the future has in store for you. And have a happy Thanksgiving. Hopefully you don't eat too much that you gotta, work it out extra hard, but hopefully you got some good stuff on the table come tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. I will definitely eat too much, but it's worth it. Thanksgiving is the best holiday of the year.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome, really. And what a perfect time, right, to get back into your workout routine. It gives you a good motivation to have to get back after it.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, guys.
Awesome.
I appreciate it. Everyone,
thanks a lot, Matt.
Go buy a shirt.
Sounds good. We'll see you later, Matt.
Thank you, guys.
All right, see you.
Go.
That was awesome.
That was cool. And perfect timing too, because there's just nothing going on for the Cubs. It's like kind of writing the same article over and over again with just different headlines.
Right. It's either, like substitute. Oh, okay. Well, thereafter here's Correa or here's Bogart. I want to debrief on this a little bit, but I just, the Correa thing, the more and more I hear it, I don't know what to, it's like, okay, the price is super high, but the Cubs are really still after him. The price is super high. Cubs aren't going to pay the price, but the Cubs are still after him. Something just, it's so weird, but it is, as you said. I think this week is traditionally, like, the next 2 days are, I don't want to say the worst, because then that puts it in terms of being like, how many people come to read our stuff or how much news is out there. But realistically, like, Thanksgiving is one of those kind of agnostic holidays where it doesn't really matter what else you celebrate. Like almost everyone celebrates Thanksgiving. And
Yeah,
so,
why wouldn't you? I mean,
right.
come on.
And so nobody's doing anything for these next couple of days and really this weekend.
Yeah.
And so I think it'll be more into, and, when we're talking about they had the non-tender decisions, they had the 40-man decisions, but, as far as prepping for the Rule 5 draft and getting all these other things going in the GM meetings or the winter meetings, GM meetings they already had, that will all happen in early December. And it typically feels, that used to be when like everything would happen and be really active. Now it's not so much that all these deals get done there, but that's when things ramp up. So it's great. And I'm again, as I mentioned, I'm super appreciative of being able to have Matt on here. But I think I love the whole, like, he's just no nonsense. Like, hey, did you ever get out, trying to hit for power? No, not really. Just stuck with this. This is my approach. It's just like nothing changes. No 2-strike stuff. None of this. This is what I practice. Go out there, barrel the ball, try to hit. Like, it's great. But I'm telling you, man.
Got a swing like he's got. I mean, why change anything? And so I get that. And I actually love that approach.
Yeah. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think there are now some guys I think do. If you look at Juan Soto, you look at Bryce Harper, you see some other ones, they do employ that 2-strike, no stride swing where they'll get really wide. They're already kind of wide to begin with, but they'll get out there and they'll be able to really just then be out front already so they can sit back or still adjust. I know Tommy Tanks from LSU, was it Tommy White? He's got that 2-strike, no stride. So there are folks that do that. Again, though, so much of it is what have you prepared to do originally. It's not something you bring in, but and I do want to speak to this, I guess, because he had mentioned the guys being added to the 40-man, and obviously he was not. I wrote about this the other day, but so much of that comes down to, like, he didn't have to be yet, right? He's still not Rule 5 eligible. The Cubs don't need to put him on there because they still have a ton of 40-man decisions to make. There's a bunch of those guys that are going to be removed from that roster. They still have to add some guys through signings. So, again, if he's going to break camp with the team, which, I mean, unless something weird happens, like a trade, or even if they sign a big-time first baseman, Mervis is still going to be able to get in there and platoon or be the DH. There's nothing else for him to really learn at this point. I didn't want to ask him about that stuff. Like, what did the Cubs tell you? Because it's like, he puts somebody in an awkward position.
Some insight.
Like, what did they say you're going to do? I mean, because we've heard him say he's going to be a big part, and he should be. He's going to be 25 next year, right? He doesn't need to spend more time in the minors. Get him up there, let him start hitting, and see if he can really be that dude. And man, I got to tell you, I'm biased. I've liked the way this guy plays the game for a while now, but just listening to him kind of going through the approach stuff and hear all that, like I see no reason why he can't succeed, especially if he continues to improve at first base. He's a guy you can have out there every day. Really, really like the idea of seeing him blast some tanks out there into right field.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch. There's no doubt about that. Well, been a great show. That was a lot of fun. So a great way to head into Thanksgiving. So are you guys staying at home, or are you going out to your
we are
folks or something?
We have offered to host for my parents and my in-laws and my grandmother and my great aunt.
I'm doing the same thing. It sounds like you got more people though.
Yeah, it's not a ton. And it's good. I mean, we're fairly centrally located. We'll have, our 4 and then 5, 6 others.
I got 10.
So yeah. So
and I'm cooking. Are you cooking?
Yeah. Yes. We got to go once I'm done with this.
I'm prepped.
Gotta go shop.
I got it.
I got to go get, I might, because I heard this the other day. I think we're doing ham and we're doing turkey. My mom's bringing down some noodles. Other people bringing stuff. I think we might be doing mashed potatoes. What I had heard, and I love this idea, is that to cut down on prep day of, you make the mashed potatoes the day before and then stick them in a sous vide, put them in a bag and stick them in the sous vide at 150 degrees. Just keeps them.
Nice. Okay.
Although I think in the same sense, I could just take them and put them in a dish, just a covered dish, and then stick them back in the oven the next day. Either way, or throw them in the sous vide the next day, which I might do. We'll see. But they do kind of dry out. Mashed potatoes dry out if you leave them.
I thought about getting lazy because there was so much stuff, right? And so my wife's like, there's a specialty store here. And she said, go to the specialty store. They're going to have all the sides. You can get it, just a couple of days before Thanksgiving. I went down there yesterday and a stuffing. It was a good size container of stuffing, but it wasn't anything crazy. $25 for some stuffing. So I went and I bought a $25.
But how much stuffing volume wise?
I mean, it was probably like 12 inches by.
I mean, it was like a pound. I mean, because stuffing's not heavy.
Maybe a pound, a couple pounds, maybe.
That's still like.
It looked like it was like basically like a box.
That's like
looked like a full box.
That's some expensive ass stuffing, right?
And so I just went to the store and I bought stuffing with
stovetop,
like $1.99.
Just put some stovetop in a pot of boiling water. Done.
It's onions, some celery, and some chicken stock. And $5 later, I'm feeling pretty good about that investment. So I am going to make that myself. And that's kind of what it came down to. It's just, the lazy factor right out the door. I'll just make all this stuff myself. I'm going to go down and make some cranberry sauce, which sounds like it's really easy to make too. So it's like sugar and water and cranberries.
How hard could that be? That's out of the can, baby. Just the jelly bloop. I know. So it holds the shape of the can. Just sitting on the plate. I might have to get some bourbon. Here's my problem.
I've got a fine selection of bourbon.
I've gotten into bourbon. Here's what I do though, right? This is like my worst habit is that I'll drink it down to where there's enough in the bottle that you don't throw it away, but not enough to make a drink with. And I've got like 6 bottles that have like half a finger or a finger at the bottom. I don't want to mix them, but they're all like, and they're pretty, mostly pretty good. Sometimes I'll get some, like I got some tin cup in case I want to, which I'm not a big fan of, even if I try to even do it and make an old fashioned out of it. I still didn't like it that much. Okay. But yeah, so I gives me an excuse and maybe I'll just, do small, just a couple of cubes and finish off like 4 bottles of bourbon, none of which have more than a splash at the bottom. But that's my bad habit that I've get, it's like inevitably I probably have 5 bottles that are almost empty, but not quite. And so maybe we'll fix that.
Done, man. I made a simple syrup the other day for the first time in my life. So it was just half water, half honey.
Ooh.
And I just got it up to not quite boiling. And so it was a little runnier than I thought it was going to end up being. And I tried it last night. It was so good.
Really?
Like it's bad good. Like you could I think it was half cup of water, half cup of honey, and you just get it up to close to boiling.
That's a lot of simple syrup right there.
And no, it was I filled up like a small one of those small Gatorade bottles.
Oh, yeah.
I just put it in there. And I tried it last night. I think what I would like to do in my next batch, which it's going to take a while to get through that one, but my next batch will be to do the same thing and let it cook down a little and maybe add some cinnamon and maybe some nutmeg or something like that.
Like a holiday spice.
Yeah.
And do you have the hot honey down there? The spicy honey? I wonder if that would be, that'd be kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And it's like add a little bit of a kick. Like if you're doing, again, like I mentioned, I love me an old fashioned, right? And but dude, cherries are expensive as hell. First of all, the good ones.
I got frozen cherries from Trader Joe's. It's like a package of frozen cherries, and they are good.
But are they just cherries, or are they like with the ones in the juice that you'd normally see in a drink such as that?
I think they're just cherries. I don't know if there's no season to them. It's just like, so I took out just a couple of those cherries and threw them in the old fashioned, and it worked out fantastically.
I might check on that. So maybe get an orange. Sure. I might, because I like things with a little bit of spice, a little bit of kick. And so I'm wondering, and I've got some hot honey. So I'm kind of thinking about maybe maybe I'll experiment. Maybe I'll do that with a smaller, maybe just a teaspoon or a tablespoon or so. I can kind of tweak and
you can test it out.
Yeah, kind of see how that goes. Although I will say this, just watch out, if you, because again, as I mentioned, I would not use, like I have the Old Forester 1820, what is it, like 127 proof? It's pretty high, right? It's some diesel. And you got to watch out for that, because alcohol content that high is you really need to keep it kind of unadulterated, so that you have a better understanding of exactly what you're drinking. Because when you do start adding a little simple syrup and a little bit of and I have the orange bitters, not the regular ones, and then you got the orange, and then you got the sweetness from the cherries, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, here we get, and then a couple of days later,
easy drinking.
Ugh, what's happening?
You're like, you go to stand up and you just kind of fall over.
Okay, thump.
Your in-laws look at you like, what's going on over there?
What is this guy doing? What the hell? But so I might do that. We got to go to the store here. Actually, right after this, it's go to the store and clean the house. So, fun times. Well, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you
and to everyone else.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody
out there. Yeah, hopefully you're not checking the site too often for a bunch of news, because there probably won't be much of it, and I don't see myself doing many updates. Oh, I will say this too, so we'll throw that out there for everybody. We're gonna be, I hope nothing breaks tonight. We're going to traditionally our family goes out to see a movie on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
Cool.
There's not a whole lot that's available. It's kind of strange, but The Strange World is the one that's out there. But we're gonna go see The Menu tonight. So speaking of food planning, that should be an interesting one. Yeah. So hopefully the Cubs don't do anything, and I don't have to worry about
it. They won't. Come on.
Yeah, probably not.
No. All right. Anyways, thanks for joining us, everybody. It's been great. Happy Thanksgiving, and we'll catch you next week, probably.
Cool. Bye.